Welcome to the Green Room, where we explore the environmental issues that green up our world. Today's topic is keeping water clean. Clean water is crucial for human, environmental, and economic health. But keeping water clean is getting to be more and more of a challenge. Our guest today is Karll, a civil engineer and leader of environmental programs at SEMCOG, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. A big part of SEMCOG's job is to work with partners to ensure our region has clean water for generations to come. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So we'll just start with the basics. Briefly, what is SEMCOG?
SEMCOG is the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. We're an association of local governments in Southeast Michigan across 7 counties, all the way from St. Clair County over to Livingston, Washtenaw, Monroe, Wayne, Oakland County, down to Lake Erie, essentially. We work with our members. We have over 170 members consisting of local governments, community colleges, intermediate school districts, and our big focus is to work collaboratively on regional problems and solving regional problems.
Great, because so many of those problems, such as air pollution, water pollution, economic issues, they don't stay in one town, right? They
exactly
cross jurisdictions, as they say, and water especially. Tell us about this watershed approach that you like to utilize at SEMCOG.
Well, the watershed approach is basically looking at water challenges across a watershed. So, for example, the Huron River watershed makes up over about 900 square miles. Okay. The watershed is basically the land area that drains all of that rainwater and eventually ends into the river body. So, in this area, mostly the Huron River. The priority is watersheds cross jurisdictional boundaries. So it's not one governmental issue, it's multiple people involved, multiple jurisdictions, which is why it's important that we all look at our own actions and how we can help improve water quality in our region.
It used to be you'd just throw something out, the factories would dump into the river and not care, but it was kind of out of sight, out of mind, and in a sense it was short-term gain, but long-term loss really for us all. And so I think it's really wonderful that you're looking at things this way, because we all pay in the end if somebody downstream is having bad water.
Right. Well, we're all connected to water, from drinking water to flushing our toilets, right. To recreating in our water bodies, such as the Huron River, fishing. We're all connected, and it's all one water, essentially.
And the groundwater connects to the streams,
to the surface water, into the streams, and our drinking water comes from our surface waters and our groundwater. So it's important that what we're doing at home or in our businesses, we're looking to protect water quality in all of our actions.
And this water resources plan that we're going to be talking about today, that SEMCOG has put together, is really great for this watershed approach. I must say that all the different, 70 different people that were involved in putting this together?
Yes, SEMCOG has a practice of really working with our local governments and our members across the region. So from the Water Resources Plan approach, we convened a task force of over 70 members, consisting of local governments, environmental groups, academia, and counties, and just other water experts to help feed into the priorities for this plan.
And by planning together and working together, you can maintain efficiencies, which is so important for governments. They're trying to deal with, providing good services on limited budgets, and it's just very interesting the different ways that this plan has promoted strategies that help with the efficiencies, such as prioritizing. So tell us about asset management.
Well, asset management really in the plan focuses on our infrastructure. When we think of our infrastructure, it's generally our roads and the entire world of water infrastructure underneath our roads, consisting of drinking water pipes, wastewater pipes, and stormwater pipes. In fact, in Ann Arbor alone, I think there's over 400 miles of drinking water pipes. And same, similar for wastewater and stormwater. Stormwater collects our rainwater. But those challenges associated with maintaining and upgrading and rehabilitating that infrastructure, cross jurisdictional boundaries. When we talk asset management, it's really important to look at what's our desired level of service for that infrastructure service we're providing at the most reasonable life cycle cost. So, for example, I will say over the years, we have infrastructure that's very old, and as we upgrade it, it's important to look at cost efficiencies in order to more collaboratively do our infrastructure improvements. Simply said, when we do a road project, how can we look at also integrating other water infrastructure improvements that are necessary so that there is a desired level of cost efficiencies and a sense of working together for that ultimate cost savings goal that benefits our customers.
That makes sense, totally. Yeah, kind of getting a feel for what's out there in terms of what needs work first and who can we work with at the same time. I love the efficiencies.
There are multiple owners.
Yeah.
You know, so just even within a single road, there may be multiple owners of the infrastructure underneath, which is why it's important that we're all collaborating more efficiently so that we're not, you know, working off in different directions.
And another way of prioritizing you mentioned earlier was through scoring roads for flooding risks.
Right. So when we talk about climate issues and climate resiliency, I would think since 1950, I believe in our region we've experienced about a 12% increase in annual rainfall. Obviously, people would say in some instances we see rainfall, significant rain events over a very short period of time, you know, which is a challenge that we're all dealing with, and our infrastructure isn't always sized to handle those very heavy rainfalls. Back in 2011, we had a rainstorm in our region, in part of the region, that was over 6 inches in an 8-hour period. Significant infrastructure damage, significant private property damage. We had highway closures, and it was declared a federal disaster declaration, about $2 billion in damage. So when we look at it from a road standpoint, is what is the risk on our major roads for flooding? How do we assign that risk, and then how can we prioritize what road projects need to happen to improve the flooding, improve that infrastructure so that we minimize those flooding situations in the future? And that's a project we're embarking on this fall.
Great. Yeah, I have a friend who lived near one of those areas, one of the freeways that flooded. She actually moved. She sold her house. She said, I can't live through that again. It was so traumatizing. Right. So, you know, it occurs to me that, you know, economic vitality depends on preparation for these kind of disasters.
There are significant economic impacts, but once again, it's not just a road agency issue. It's not just a local government issue. It's, you know, all of us working together to identify and prioritize what improvements need to happen so we minimize those issues in the future.
And another strategy is early detection. You were telling me that trying to find out what could be impacting the water intakes to make sure we don't run into public health risks.
Sure. In our region, we have about 14 drinking water intakes along the Huron to Erie corridor. That's starting from Lake Huron, going down through St. Clair River, Lake St. Clair, Detroit River, down to Lake Erie. That's a separate area than Washtenaw County and City of Ann Arbor, but those 14 drinking water intakes service over half the population in our region. And it's important that to monitor the source water, because along that 80-mile corridor, we have freighter traffic. We have probably about 10 natural gas and oil pipelines. We also have significant heavy manufacturing on both sides of the international border. And so there is a risk for spills or accidents to happen. And the more prepared our water treatment operators are to detect any potential contaminants along that corridor, the more efficiently and quickly they can respond to change operations as needed within their own drinking water treatment plants. And so currently we're working on a project to purchase new equipment through a grant program for those drinking water treatment plants along the corridor so that they can have this early detection program.
Great. Sounds really important. Wow. And then there's prevention, such as green infrastructure. That was a new term for me. What's that mean?
Well, I think Washtenaw County and Ann Arbor are very familiar with green infrastructure. So green infrastructure could be as simple as installing a rain barrel in your yard, you know, or constructing rain gardens in a parking lot, or rain gardens along a road. Miller Road has a number of rain gardens along there, and the focus is to look at infiltrating and getting some of that rainwater to soak back down into the ground rather than flowing off into our streams. Other examples of, we say, green infrastructure other than rain gardens might be green roofs, you know, or porous pavement. And I think that Washtenaw County and the City of Ann Arbor have a very collaborative approach of working together to identify those opportunities, because in Washtenaw County, through our stakeholder process with this plan, really identified stormwater management as a big priority in this area. And so they're very proactive in implementing a lot of those green infrastructure programs and projects.
Great. Yeah, I think there's a misconception that what goes down the storm drains gets treated, but it doesn't, right? It just goes straight into the rivers?
It goes out to the rivers. And if people take one thing away from this talk, it's that storm drain in your backyard or that drain in your street is not there to dump anything from your house into it. It's only there to accept rainwater because it does not go to a treatment plant. It goes to your local stream. It might go to a detention pond in your neighborhood, but ultimately it likely ends up in the Huron River or Raisin River, one of these watersheds within your local community.
So there's things people can do, like for instance, I've heard don't wash your car in your driveway where it could just run the soapy water and the grease and everything from your car run into the storm drain. Do it instead on the lawn where it could soak down into the soil and let the grass.
If you have the property, to the space to do that, sure.
Right.
I mean, the idea is you're minimizing soap suds and soap from getting in the storm drain that ultimately gets into the river and can affect the fish and wildlife within the river. And changing your oil, going to an oil change, place is a better option than probably changing it at home, unless you change it and you save it and then you dispose of it at your local household hazardous waste days, or even at the local oil change facilities that accept that material.
Gosh, I can't believe anybody would pour that down a storm drain, but I guess
it happens. It does happen.
You have a lot of best management practices that you brought some brochures, and apparently they're on the website too. Lawn care, pet care, car care, all kinds of things. So those are, again, examples of prevention. It seems like people need to value their water before they're going to make these behavior changes. And one of the neat things about this plan is that there's a lot of strategies for helping people value their water more. Can you give us some examples, like for instance with placemaking, for example? What's that?
Well, within the plan, we talk about water as a value in our region. And a lot of that has to do with recreation. When people enjoy going to the river, going to parks, and in our region we have tremendous opportunities for paddling and kayaking. We have over 400 miles of water trails, as we call them, within the region.
Oh, I brought my water trail map. I got this from my husband for Christmas. We go kayaking a lot. It's through the Huron River Watershed Council. And I just wanted to throw that out, that it's really nice. It's called the Huron River Water Trail Paddler's Companion.
Right.
And it tells you where you can put in and what, how long from one spot to the next. It's very helpful.
And they are an excellent organization for many of these opportunities. In fact, the Huron River itself has over 100 miles of kayaking and paddling opportunities, and it's very well used. In our region alone, as I mentioned, we have over 400 miles of water trails, including the coastlines. I think some people don't realize when you live more inland that there are significant water recreation opportunities, say, up in St. Clair County. I mean, did you know that you can go paddling along the St. Clair River between the United States and Canada?
Really?
And it's beautiful. And many people just don't realize those benefits. And even Lake St. Clair and different paddling and recreation opportunities along those areas as well.
And there's some things that SEMCOG is working on, Terrain 360, that will help us to get to know our...
Yes, that's exciting. It's actually a 360-degree imagery that we're working on right now that'll be available this fall, collecting 360-degree imagery of our water trails, and including the Huron River will be one of those, including the coastline along our coasts, and it will eventually, the data will be uploaded into our Southeast Michigan Park Finder app. Which I will talk about, but just to give you a perspective, when I say 360-degree imagery, it's really like Google Street View, but on the water. So we've actually had a contractor that has a boat that has the cameras and is traversing all of these water trails and getting all of this imagery. When it's uploaded in our Southeast Michigan Park Finder app, which is an app that anybody can download, you have data available to you over 2,600 parks within our region, and then you'll be able to even view some of this information from the 360-degree imagery that we're collecting, so that you can search and find where you might like to go.
That would be really useful. Can't wait to try that. Also, helping us to value our studies that help us to understand the financial benefits of our waterways. Can you address that?
Sure. Well, the Huron River Watershed Council completed one of the only studies that I'm familiar with in our region recently with Grand Valley State University to provide more of an economic value of the Huron River itself. And one of the results of the study basically showed that the Huron River provides over $150 million in value to this area. And that includes benefits such as recreation. It includes benefits such as flood mitigation, and that extra property area that's there to handle those excess rain events, aesthetic value, as well as real estate value, as well as biodiversity, such as fish and wildlife populations along the river corridor.
Yeah, there's a lot of revitalization going on in downtown Lower Town, where the Mishcon, there was a brownfield area there, and so it's really exciting. Yeah.
And it's all tied together. Water has an effect on all of the different types of projects and jobs that we work on.
So how can people get more information about all this?
Well, people can certainly go to our website, which is www.semcog.org.
Okay.
We have a tab under water. Our plan is available under there. We also have information on protecting our water and what you can do at home. We have these tip cards available and that people can download and see. I think if people are interested in getting involved and more active in water issues that we deal with on a daily basis, I would say you could contact your local watershed council, and the watershed councils throughout our region, whether it's the Huron River Watershed Council, the Clinton River Watershed Council, Friends of the Rouge, and others have many opportunities for people to get involved and get more active in many water recreation or water challenges and issues that we're working on.
Yeah, I think the Huron River Watershed Council is hrwc.org.
Yes.
And this economic impact of the Huron River that you mentioned, they've got this will be online too, I'm sure.
Yes.
This looks really interesting. So yeah, a lot of great stuff. I really appreciate all this. Very important. We really need our clean water for many reasons. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
For an online archive of all our Green Room shows, go to washtenaw.org/greenroom. Thanks for joining us in the Green Room.